And we turn now to former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Preet Bharara, who endorsed Alvin Bragg, the District Attorney of Manhattan, in his election. He also used to work with and actually hired Trump's attorney in the case, Todd Blanche. Good morning to you, Preet.
Good morning. Just one quick correction. I didn't hire Todd Blanche, but I did promote him twice. And I consider both Alvin Bragg and Todd Blanche to be friends of mine.
And he was Mr. Trump's attorney in this trial. So what does having this criminal record now do for Donald Trump with these other 3 criminal cases?
Oh, well, so that's an interesting question. There's a lot of speculation about whether or not this criminal conviction will result in a incarcerative period for Donald Trump. That's up in the air. There are arguments in favor. There are arguments against. But whatever happens, the fact of this criminal conviction will be on his record if it remains at such time as the future criminal trials take place. And if he gets a conviction on the federal counts in the future, the fact of this conviction here, if it's still on the books, would result in a potential higher prison sentence in those future cases. So it does have a consequence because he will now, unlike a week ago, have a criminal record, and criminal records are taken into account in meting out punishment.
Important point. You said you had promoted the president's attorney when you used to work together. Would you promote him based on his performance in court defending Mr. Trump?
It's a very easy thing that I do and other people do on the panel and criticize people's performances. Sometimes it's the case that someone could do a better job at trial. Trials are difficult and there's a lot of scrutiny here. But sometimes the facts in the law are what the facts in the law are. And sometimes terrific defense lawyers who perform very, very well lose, and sometimes not good defense lawyers win because the government hasn't proven its case. So I'm not going to take pot shots at Todd. I think he could have been stronger in some of the cross-examinations, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, sentencing is July 11th, 4 days before the convention, as we mentioned. What grounds for appeal do you think Mr. Trump has here?
So I think they'll make a number of points. Donald Trump is not one to leave anything on the cutting room floor. I think some of his arguments are non-frivolous. I agree with what Jan said, that in the ordinary course, it's very, very difficult to get a criminal conviction overturned, but it happens. It's happened to me. It's happened to any good prosecutor's office that brings aggressive cases. Nobody has a 100% record on appeal. That said, it's a very low percentage. I think a number of things, including that the fact that the judge didn't change the venue, the fact that the judge didn't recuse himself, I don't think those are strong, but I think those will be made. The fact that Stormy Daniels testified a bit broadly about some of the scurrilous details of their sexual encounter, they will argue were prejudicial and should not have been allowed to come in, although they opened the door to that, arguably. And then there's this sort of technical business that I'm sure causes lay people's eyes to glaze over, and that is the degree to which the second crime, the thing that made and transformed the misdemeanor into a felony, the basis of that did not have to be decided unanimously by the jury. So the further crime, the felony, was appropriate based on the jury's decision if there was the falsification of the business documents was done to further or to conceal or to commit some other crime, namely an election crime in New York, and that could have been done 3 different ways. The jury instructions, and they don't have to be unanimous on those 3 different ways, and that's probably an issue for appeal.
Let me zero in on that, because that has been something that Mr. Trump and his allies have talked about. In terms of this case, this was about trying to manipulate an election and fraud related to that. His allies say this was just, it was a paperwork thing. Somebody mislabeled this as a legal expense. How would you tell a layperson to understand this?
Yeah, look, the underlying misdemeanor, and that's why it's a misdemeanor, is falsifying business records. But the reason it becomes a felony, not the most serious felony on the books in New York, but a felony, and that any felony is serious, is if that crime, that misdemeanor crime, was done to conceal or commit some other crime, and that other crime that the prosecutors alleged and got the convictions on was promoting someone's election by unlawful means, either done by the falsification of other documents or committing some other tax crime, or a further election fraud crime. And so the prosecution, I think, did it as well as anybody could do for lay people, because the jury obviously was a series of lay people, that this was a serious thing that undermined and interfered with the election in 2016. And that's serious and not to be taken lightly.
So, we're seeing some rhetoric from Republican lawmakers, including Senator Marco Rubio, who said Mr. Trump was held hostage, the victim of a sham political show trial like the ones the communists used in Cuba and the Soviet Union, railing against the ruling class. In terms of our judicial system in this country, how should someone understand a characterization like that?
Well, I think, it's silly. It's completely silly. The trial and all aspects of the trial were done openly and in public. The jury selection process, someone needs to be reminded, was participated in by the Trump legal team as well. They had all the peremptory challenges that they're accorded by law. The judge, although there's some, accusations made about his impartiality or lack thereof, his rulings are there to see, as other people have pointed out. He ruled in favor of the Trump team sometimes. He ruled against the Trump team sometimes. He was pretty fair and even-handed. A jury of 12 people who were selected and approved by both sides brought in the verdict. So right. I don't know what is sham about it. The rules of evidence were followed and complied with. So I don't really know what's happening here, other than pure partisan politics.
Well, yesterday, President Biden was spending time with his son, Hunter. And tomorrow, in another unusual situation our country is in, the Biden Justice Department will begin a trial in Delaware against the president's son, where Hunter faces 3 felony gun possession charges, maximum 25 years prison. How much hot water is he in here?
He's in substantial hot water because he's been charged federally, just like Donald Trump is in a lot of hot water being charged in a state court. But I think an important thing to consider here, by the way, in the wake of your question about the accusations of this vast conspiracy by both state prosecutors and the federal Justice Department that is acting in a witch hunt fashion and a partisan fashion to bring down the Republican Party. Here you have the son of the sitting president of the United States of America going to trial at the hands of his own Justice Department. In a million years, can anyone listening to this broadcast understand and expect that if Donald Trump was elected again and a Biden holdover U.S. attorney were to indict Donald Trump Jr., that Donald Trump wouldn't do something about it in the way that Joe Biden has stayed out of it? I don't think so. So that's an important thing to remember. And also the other thing that's happening this week is a continuation of the trial against Democratic senior and important Senator Bob Menendez by the same Justice Department that these politicians are accusing of being partisan.
Okay. Preet Bharara, thank you for your insight and analysis. We're going to